understood. Some uncertainties are driven by fear, fear of the unknown, fear of the what ifs. Fear often drives our perception and decision making. This explains why most of us fear flying in the plane more than sitting in the car, although data shows that flying is definitely safer than driving. As you can see, fear is not a reliable guide in our decision making. Fact is. So I'm delighted that PJEFC brings to you today's talk, COVID-19 vaccination, truths, myths, and misinformation. Hopefully this talk will answer some important questions you may have so that you are able to make an informed decision about vaccination based on facts rather than making a decision driven by fear. So before we start, I would like to just go through a question. Okay, we'll do a questionnaire survey. I'll do a. So if you go to the menti.com, so for those who have just joined us, what you can do is that you can type menti.com and use the passcode 2098026 and answer this question. Alternatively, if you have a second device, it'll be easier to just scan the QR code, which is just behind me here, and you can get to the same page. And I would like you to vote on this question. Is it started? Okay, keep voting, keep the vote coming. So 104 of you voted. I'll give you another 30 seconds. Keep the vote coming. Yeah, you can vote on this question. I repeat, use the code 2098026. You can log on by typing in your browser menti.com, menti.com, or you can use the QR code just behind me here. By scanning the QR code, you could get to the same page. Keep voting. Well, we have about 140 votes now. Just answer the question. If the COVID-19 vaccine is available for you today, will you take it? Still, people are still answering. Yeah, I'll just give you a few more seconds before we review the results. Okay, I will show you the result. Okay, so we have roughly 40% people say yes. Okay, about 16% say no, a definitive no, and the majority is unsure, 43%. Okay, Dr. Alex, you can have a look at this result and think about that. Okay. So we have 40%, approximately 40% will say yes, a definitive yes, about 50%, 16% no, and then 43% unsure. Okay, this is based on 192 person answering this question, 192, almost 200. Okay, you can keep going. Okay, so I'll just move on to the next one. Now, during the talk, you will have the opportunity to submit your question, okay? You may have questions about the vaccination, so you can ask your personal question, and you can use the same platform. So this one example that we have already put down here, which is said, does the vaccine work? So you can just type in your question, open the Q&A segment, type in the question, and then you can also vote on it by just pressing on the thumbs up button. The more people vote on that question that you like, it will go up the ranking, and therefore will be answered first, will be given a priority. Okay, so we want to use this platform as a way to get questions from the audience. Okay, so use this platform. If you're not unsure about Mentimeter, don't worry. You can also type your question in the Zoom chat, although this is not preferred, and someone will transcribe that into the menti.com platform. Great. Good. Okay. Now, let's go to introducing our speaker for today. It's our immense privilege and it's my honor to introduce Dr. Alex Tang, our speaker today. He's a senior consultant pediatrician serving at KPJ Johor Specialist Hospital. He's also the associate professor of pediatrics of the clinical school in Monash University. On top of that, he also teaches theology, one of the few doctors who also teaches theology in the Asia Graduate School of Theology Alliance, Seminary Theology Malaysia, and also the East Asia School of Theology in Singapore. He's also an elder at Holy Light Church in the English section, and he's also a prolific author, and he loves blogging, and you can visit his blog at www.kairos2.com. Dr. Alex, thank you for joining us. Dr. Alex will be speaking for an hour, after which we will have 30 minutes of question and answer. So therefore, please welcome Dr. Alex Tang to give us a talk on COVID-19 vaccination, truths, myths, and misinformation. I pass the time to you, Dr. Alex.
Thank you so much for the invitation to speak to your church. And from the Zoom itself, I see there are quite a number of friendly faces. So hello to all my friends. And it's good to come back to PJEFC. I have spoken to you all on a couple of occasions. So it's always a pleasure to come back. Okay, so this morning will be interesting. So I will be dealing with quite a number of questions and about the COVID vaccine. Okay, so here, let me share my screen first. Let me share my screen and then we can proceed. Here we have I'll be talking about COVID vaccination. I will confirm my talk this morning just to COVID vaccination alone. And we know that things are happening. Okay, so this morning, my talk will be mainly on COVID-19 vaccines, some concerns we have about the vaccine. And I will just end with some Christian reflection. And I believe that that is very important that, in any talk, we must have some takeaway points. Now, pandemic is not something new. Pandemic has always been happening. As long as I believe that, we live in a foreign world, we will have pandemic. Around 1,200 years BC, the Babylon flu pandemic was one of the earliest recorded in Western history. Now, we do not know, we don't have much record of what is happening in China, in India, in the Eastern civilizations. We know that in Athens, there was a plague that killed about 100,000 people. So you find that pandemic is always associated with a lot of death. The Antonian plague in the 2nd century killed about 5 million people. Justinian plague, 50 million. And of course, most of us have heard of the Black Death, which actually killed about, most scholars or historians estimate 3/4 to half the population of Europe. That is fantastic. I mean, it actually changed civilization. You find that after every pandemic, civilization are changed, and I'm sure that after this pandemic, we will be different. Now, how about recently? Okay. The most familiar one will be the flu epidemic, the influenza epidemic in 1918 to 1920 that kills about 50 million people. Then some of you would be, you will remember the SARS outbreak, the SARS pandemic, okay, in 2002. I remember being very scared of it because I work in a hospital, and a few of my friends in Singapore, doctors who actually died from the pandemic. And we were watching for it to cross the causeway, and unfortunately or fortunately, it did not cross the causeway for some reason we do not know. Maybe he didn't have a passport or something. Then in 2009, we have the H1N1, the avian flu, that caused about 150,000 to about 500,000 deaths. Then not too long ago, which most of us do not hear about it, is the Ebola outbreak in 2014, which caused more than 11,000 deaths. Then those of you who work in a hospital knows about the MERS, okay, the Middle Eastern respiratory, which is a COVID in 2016. We were so on high alert for that. It caused 858 deaths, but again, it didn't come to Asia. So pandemic is not something new. But what have happened is that since the SARS pandemic, the scientists have been working very hard to produce a vaccine for the influenza and for the Ebola. In fact, the influenza vaccine against H1N1 is already out and has been for many years. And the Ebola vaccine has been out for 2 years, even though it's not well publicized. So we have been preparing vaccines, and we have been expecting an outbreak. Okay. We know that sooner or later, we're going to have a worldwide outbreak. We just hope that it doesn't happen so soon, but it did, and it does affect us. So if you look at the world today, now this is this talk, the data are always changing, so it's hard to actually prepare this talk because I have to keep on updating my data. This is on the 5th of February. So far we have 104 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 2.2 million deaths. So that is a major worldwide pandemic. In Malaysia itself, okay, on the 6th of February, we have 3,000 deaths, and we have already 238,721 confirmed cases. But the data is a bit delayed. So what is announced is maybe a few days late. So we look more towards the cases in ICU and the death, which will give us a better state of the virus in Malaysia. And you notice that in the last few weeks, the number of deaths have been increasing. And more worrying is that the people who are dying are younger than the other group. So it's not over yet. It's still ongoing, and you see that the various states are involved. So, and we know that we started off well in the way that we try to handle this pandemic. In the first wave, we have the early lockdown, which actually did a lot of good. it buys time for the health system, our Ministry of Health, to prepare. Okay, that means we have prepare hospital beds, hospital isolation areas, ICU. So that the first wave was actually quite well contained. But as you know, certain things happen. So the second wave occur, and then we have the third wave that comes after the Sabah election. So now we are in a crisis in a way because we are facing a lot of problems at this moment. But during the 1 year of the pandemic that we have experienced so far, we actually learned a lot about the virus. We actually learned a lot about the risk of the population. Okay, we find that in Malaysia, this is a data from Malaysia. We find that the uh, the people who are infected, 1 in 4 will die. So it is about 0.4% fatal mortality rate. More common in male and more common in people with comorbidities. That means people have hypertension, diabetes, cancer. These are the people of high risk. But one thing stands out, that people between the age of 60 to 69 or 70, age is a major factor in mortality, in cause of death. So these are the vulnerable population that we have to be aware of. Now, keeping all this in view, let's go back to the vaccination itself, because I want to focus on the vaccination. Okay. You find that actually vaccination started in the 18th century. Okay, in 1796, Dr. Edward Jenner noticed that milkmaids, people who milk cows, often catch cowpox. And when they had cowpox and recovered, they are actually protected against smallpox, which is an interesting observation. So to prove it, Dr. Jenner scratched and infected his gardener's son, an 8-year-old boy. And then he purposely exposed the boy to a person with smallpox. You find that the boy didn't get smallpox. So that is the beginning of vaccination. Okay. Now, if he does that, we will charge him in court and put him in jail for human experimentation, child abuse. Okay, but in that time, there are no ethics committee. So you can say that the starting of vaccination is a bit unethical. But if you look at the benefit of vaccination, okay, we have been vaccinating children for generations, and I'm very familiar with that because I'm a pediatrician. Okay, we have been vaccinating children with minimal side effect for generations, and most of the major causes of death, we find that the major causes of death in children under 5 are actually infectious disease. And by using the 11 types of vaccines that have been using for the Ministry of Health, we have actually reduced infant mortality or infant death for the last few generations or the last few decades. So that is the origin of vaccination. And if we look at today, or 6th of February, yesterday, more than 124 million vaccine has already been given. Okay, so that means we are looking at a very major sort of test, if you want to say, phase 4 study, the largest in the world has ever seen. That so many people have already received the vaccine. Okay, this is from my friend. On the 28th of January 2021. Okay, that is a bit dated now. As I say, information changed very fast. It has been 52 days. At that time, it was 52 days. So we are talking about vaccine that's been coming out for more than 4 months. Okay. Normally in a vaccine trial, we usually observe for 3 months, 2 months. Okay. If after 2 months, we collect all the side effects, then we wait until 6 months to get all the effect. And that's about the end of the study. Okay. After that will be more of surveillance in side effect surveillance. So we find that we already have the data for about 4 months already of mass vaccination. And you find that 120 million doses is given in about 73 countries. So this is a major vaccination program. And that has given us a lot of data to study. But first, just let me share what are the vaccines. Basically, there are 4 types. Okay, what we call the viral vaccine. Okay, and this uses inactivated or attenuated. What it means is that they take a virus, either or a bacteria, either they kill it so it becomes inactivated, or they make it very weak. It's like cowpox like that, so that they produce a immunity. Now, this is not new. This technology has since Edward Jenner. We are using it activated and inactivated. So it is not a new technology, has been proven to work. Then the other one is to use a viral particle. That means I will explain in detail later. This one is that we use a protein base. We use a portion, a particle or a protein from the antigen or the virus and to stimulate an immunity. Okay. Now the 3 and 4 are the newer technology. We have the viral vector vaccine. These are the vaccine in which we use an adenovirus. We use a vector, and we insert the RNA or the COVID inside the thing, so that the adenovirus is the vector that infect the cell. Then we come to the nucleic acid vaccine, which is the RNA vaccine. Okay, so this is the new one. This is the new technology, so-called new technology that we want to talk about. But to understand what is all this about, we have to look at the virus itself. Okay, this is it's called SARS-CoV-2 because it's actually very, very close to SARS. I think you can call it a cousin of SARS or so. Okay, so it's actually the genome is not that different. I think one of the things we need to realize, I think one day when all this is over and the historian write the story, we must thank the scientists in China. Because when we first heard of the news of something happening in China in November, December 2019, okay, by January 2020, the scientists in China has already sequenced the genome of the SARS-CoV-2. Okay, because in the year 2000, we have sequenced the whole human genome. So we have the technology now to actually sequence or find out what are the components of the genetic code. So by January, we already have the genome of the SARS-CoV-2. And what is impressive is that instead of trying to patent and sell the information, the Chinese scientists actually release it to the scientific community for free. I think that is wonderful. I fully support this idea of scientific collaboration for free instead of trying to patent and make money out of it. So everybody gets in January, everybody has the genome of this SARS-CoV-2. And this couple that is doing research on coronavirus. This couple that runs BioNTech. Actually, with the genome from data from the Chinese scientists, they are able to make the genome and the vaccine for SARS-CoV in 2 days because the technology is there. Okay? But because they have the genome, but there's a small research company, they cannot make the vaccine. They do not know. So they actually team up with Pfizer. So that's why you hear the name Pfizer BioNTech. Okay. So that is how the thing begins. So how does this virus act? Okay, let me see. In the virus vaccine, which is the common one that we know, in the virus vaccine, the common one that we know, we actually get the weakened virus or the inactivated virus. In the vaccine, it's injected in the person, and the macrophages or the T cells and the B cells, which are all lymphocytes, okay, react to it and produce antibodies. So this is common. This is for all type of vaccine that we use, like chickenpox vaccine, mumps, rubella. Okay, so that is one. Then protein-based vaccine, they actually take the spike protein. You find that out of the 4 protein, the more important are the spike. The spike protein, which is actually expose them to the T cells, they produce antibodies. So that one also is quite straightforward. The viral vector vaccine is the one that they use the virus as a vector. So they actually create the virus, they modify the virus so that it's not infectious to human. In fact, in the AstraZeneca one, they use the chimpanzee adenovirus. Okay, that's why I always call it the ACHU virus, because it's a chimpanzee common flu virus. Okay, so what they do is that they make the virus very weak, and then they insert part of the gene, the genome for the RNA. Okay, so that, and then they inject into the person. So the virus will infect the cells, and then the cell will react and produce antibodies. So these are the viral vector. Then we come to the nucleic acids, which is either the DNA or the RNA. So here, we actually create, the scientists actually create the RNA. There's not taken from the real adenovirus, right? Real COVID. They create the RNA, the sequence that is required to produce the spike protein. Then they wrap it in this lipid nanoparticle, and then they inject into the person. And you find that this is absorbed to the cell. It doesn't go into the nucleus. Okay, it doesn't go. The nucleus is where the DNA is. It exists in the cell, and the cell cytoplasm produce the RNA, produce the protein, the viral protein, which is excreted, and the body reacts to it and produce antibodies. So that means just using, it's just like giving a computer code to the computer, and the computer will carry out the instruction. It doesn't infect the source code, so it's not like a malware. Okay, some vaccine use the DNA, which is actually goes into the what, and then it doesn't attach itself to the DNA of the cells, but using the DNA in the nucleus, it produces the antibodies. So these are actually the 4 types. In a brief outline, are the 4 types of adenovirus or the COVID virus vaccine. Okay, we'll have time for question and answer. You want to elaborate, but now I want to talk about some concerns about COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah, I know we all have concern. Okay? Are they safe? Are they effective? What are the side effects? So how about safety? Now we know that in vaccine development, a normal vaccine will take about 10 to 15 years. Okay, that, it takes about 2 to 3 years for the lab phase, where we actually develop a vaccine, inject it into animals. Okay, for COVID, we use mice, we use a chimpanzee, we use other animals to see whether it's safe or not. Then when it's safe, we go into a phase 1 trial. Okay. Phase 1 trial is involving human beings, but small number of human beings, usually about up to about 100, not more than that. Okay. The idea is phase 1 trial is to see whether it's safe for human beings. So we look more of the safety profile. And also we want to look at the dosage. The main idea is to find what is the optimum dosage of the vaccine for the person. Okay, so the maximum dose and the one. So this usually take about 2 to 3 years. Then we go to the phase 2 trial. So after establishing the dosage and the safety, here we have more volunteers. Okay, usually about 100 to about 1,000. So it's a bigger group where we will use the dosage of the vaccine, and we will select volunteers that sort of represents the population. That means in terms of age, in terms of race, in terms of sex and all that. And then we will give them the vaccine. Okay, half of them will given the vaccine, half of them will be given saline, and then they are live in a population, and then see how many of them get vaccine after 6 months or a year, or how many of them get COVID. So that usually takes about 2 to 3 years. For after that, they have to correlate the data. Then come the phase 3. Phase 3 is where we do a bigger population, usually about up to 10,000. So from 1,000 to 10,000 people. Again, now that we have data from phase 2, we are able to sort of fine tune the vaccine. And then again, we are interested in safety, when we are also interested in how it works in normal population. Okay, so we get volunteers, try to match them to the demographic. So these are what is happening. Okay, then again 2 to 3 years, and we get approval. Approval usually takes about 1 to 2 years, and then manufacturing. Then after that, goes in the population. So about 10 to 15 years. Okay, so that is a normal vaccine, usually for the attenuated or protein. Now, the concern now is that the COVID vaccine are done in about 9 months. Okay, 9 months. So they actually did the preclinical, the phase 1 safety trial and phase 2 safety trial. Okay, and that all of them have gone through almost, or all of them have finished their phase 3 trials. But the interesting thing is that while they are doing the phase 3 trials, okay, they already started producing, they have permission, okay, they actually have approval for emergency use because of the pandemic, and they are actually rolling up the vaccine around here. Okay, so that means that's a difference. 9 months. Okay. Well, a few reasons why it's so fast. The first reason is that the technology, especially in category 3 and 4, the vector and the the RNA virus type of vaccine. Okay. It's not that new in the sense that they've been working on it for 20 years. Okay. SARS vaccine, okay, influenza vaccine, and the Ebola vaccine. Okay. And with the improvement of genome editing, now we actually can edit the genome, like when we are typing. Okay, so using CRISPR, the new technology, we can actually adjust the cells. So the technology is that we can actually do the thing, produce a vaccine very fast. That's one thing. The second thing is that because of ex-President Trump, who initiated Operation Warp Speed, there are a lot of money put into vaccine development in the US. $1.6 billion. So because of all this money, they are able to do large-scale phase 2 studies. So in fact, phase 2 studies is almost like the phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4 studies. They can do large scale. Last time if we can do it about 10,000 is very good already. Now we are talking about 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, 60,000. It's almost like a whole population study. So the study is there, the technology is there, and the information comes out very fast and is shared. So that is why the vaccine is developed so fast. Okay. And in phase 1, 2, and 3, safety has not been compromised. Okay. Let me reassure you right now that safety has not been compromised. There is no shortcut taken. Why? Because every stage, especially phase 2 and 3, has been peer reviewed by the scientific community. Okay, so that is something that we must keep in mind as we think about the vaccine. Okay, especially vaccine that comes out so fast. And I think that we are seeing the new stage of medical care. Nowadays, we are producing, now with the new RNA vaccine, I think all the vaccine in the future will be RNA. All the vaccine, all the medicine, in the future will be genomic medicine based, because we actually know what are the genes of the people who will be receptive to this new medicine. So that means in the past, we are giving medicine and hope the whole population will take it. Now we can identify which population will respond best to which medicine. So you find that in the COVID vaccine development, there are actually 47 trials. Okay, this is in November 2020. Okay, 41 candidates, and 2 of them actually has to drop out, MERS and Sanofi, because both the vaccine doesn't work. So they will actually, so you find that in the final phase 2 and 3, only a few of them actually made it. So that means not everybody can sort of jump the gun or get extra help to speed ahead. So there is a lot of quality control and safety. And if you look at here, just a brief glance, because I'll go into detail later, you find that there is a data on the study is quite big, 3,000, more than 30,000, 12,000, 40,000, 31,000 of Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, or the Oxford one, the Russian one, Gamaleya, and Sinopharm. So you find that there are a lot of there are studies done, and there are confirmation. So in terms of the speed of development, I don't think any corners have been cut. And I believe that it is the studies so far say that is effective, efficacy, and is safe. Now, we actually, in a way, the research study phase 3 has been sort of superseded by the rollout of the vaccine, because instead of the phase 3, now we have the data from 125 doses given to people in about 73 countries. So we have the population studies now that give us additional data. Okay, so we have to take that in mind. So we cannot just keep on looking at the lab or the study phases, but we have to look at the bigger picture, phase 4 studies, the population studies. In terms of safety, the major one that is recorded so far is anaphylactic shock. Okay, we know that anaphylaxis is a severe life-threatening allergic reaction that occurs after a vaccination. So, okay, so far we find that worldwide, cases, especially data from Pfizer, shows that there is about 11.1 million, allergic reaction per million dose. Okay, you may say, oh, okay, that is a lot, 11.1 per million. But we're talking about millions, you see. If you look at the influenza vaccine, their allergic rate or anaphylactic rate is about 1 in 1 million. And we have accepted the influenza vaccine. Now, if you penicillin allergy is actually 1 in 5,000. So if you think about that and compare, the Pfizer vaccination allergy is actually quite safe in a way, 11.1 per million dose. And now we have already vaccinated 125 million. Okay, so the report coming out is not been more than that. Okay, Singapore recorded 1 out of 155,000. Okay, this is a bit high, but we are waiting for more details coming into whether the numbers will increase as they vaccinate more people. Singapore roll out in December. Oh, yeah. And this is from this is a New England Journal of Medicine, a very established journal, and everybody, in fact, everybody has been watching for allergy. Okay, so it's and they find that the early report says that the incidence is actually very low, and it's very safe vaccine, which is fantastic. Okay, of course, we will hear about many people who claim that they after receiving the vaccine they have problems and all that, but all these are being taken seriously, and all these are being investigated. The only one that is still under investigation is that of a doctor in Florida who, a few weeks after taking the vaccine, developed a severe low platelet count. In fact, the platelet count becomes 0, so much so that he bled in his body and his brain and he died. So that is one of the few serious incidents that we are actually looking at. But in terms of safety, there is no major concern of all governments, of all regulatory bodies all over the world, from WHO also. How about the efficacy and effectiveness? Okay, don't look at this side. Look at this side first. Now you will see that in the newspaper report and WhatsApp that you get and all that, people, you find that talk about efficacy and effectiveness. Now, what is efficacy? Efficacy is the results you get when you're doing a phase 2, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 trial. That means it's under controlled condition. So you find that these drugs will tell you, oh, 95%, 96%. These are efficacy. That means this is under control condition. Effectiveness is that when you put the vaccine out into the world, the real world, and how many people do not get COVID, or is prevented from getting COVID, either mild, severe, or moderate. Then that is effectiveness. Okay, so when you read things and people tell you things, make sure you know the difference between efficacy and effectiveness. Okay, efficacy is what is being reported. Effectiveness is what the public health will report and how effective in the population. That's why even the BBC is wrong when it says how effective, because it's actually how efficacious. Okay, so when you read the things, this is a table I have compiled on the various vaccine. You'll find that Pfizer and Moderna are the mRNA vaccine. Then Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Oxford, and the Sputnik 5 are the vector. Then Sinopharm and Sinovac are the inactivated vaccine, and Novavax is a protein. So this is old technology. Okay, this is the usual one that we do. Okay, the new one are the vector and the DNA, and you find that the efficacy, this is from their phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 report, is actually quite high. Okay, actually it's excellent. No? You talk about 95%, 94%. This is actually fantastic. Okay, the only thing about the Chinese vaccine, the Sinopharm and the Sinovac, is that this is actually more of the effectiveness reported by the press. Okay, for some reason, the Chinese companies tend to produce their report through the press first. Okay, but you find that in the numbers in their phase 3 trial, all of them actually publish their phase 3 trials. And phase 3 trials, you find that it's about 43,000 to about 15,000. In terms of safety and anaphylaxis, you find that Moderna is only 2.5. Okay, and others have reported no severe. All of them has been published in major journals. Okay, some of them have published their phase 1 and 2. Okay, we are waiting for the phase 3. Okay, this one just came out a few days ago. Okay, the Sputnik, and the Sputnik is actually very good. Okay, you have about 91.6%. The Russian, initially, we all laugh at the Russians. Oh, they put it too fast. They injected the president's daughter and all that. But actually, it's 91.6%. Okay, 40,000, very large number of. Okay, then Johnson and Johnson, and the Janssen one is actually finishing their already finished their phase 3, but they are just collaborating the data before they publish. Okay, the interesting thing about the Johnson and Johnson is that they only need 1 dose. Okay, others of them need 2 doses. It's either is first dose and 21 days later, or first dose and 28 days later. So the advantage of the Johnson & Johnson is 1 dose. Okay, all others need 2 doses. And you think of the storage and the transmission, because that's a very important factor. How do you get the vaccine to the people? You find that Pfizer has a challenge in the sense that the Pfizer vaccine needs to be kept at extremely low temperature, usually minus 72 degrees centigrade. Okay, anything that goes above 80 degrees will damage the vaccine. But you freeze it to below 110 degrees centigrade, also will damage the vaccine. So they have to be a very cold. And how do we maintain such a cold? Okay, and but they find that actually they can keep it to 2 to 8 degrees centigrade for about 5 days, for about 5 days. So that helps. Okay, Moderna is about 20 degrees. Okay. And then the others are actually more of 2 to 8 degrees, which is about the temperature of our freezer in the fridge. So it can be used more commonly and distributed more commonly. So these are the data that we have on what. So any evidence so far of how it apply in real life? Now I think very interesting reports are coming out of Israel. Okay, Israel is the first country in the world that actually go into full-scale immunization, about up to 60% of the population. In fact, they have a initial deal with Pfizer that if Pfizer produces them with all the vaccine to immunize 100% of the population, about 80% to 100, okay, they will allow their population be studied to get the data. So now we have data of having first and second shot. Okay, in US and all that, they have rolled up about 2 or 3 months ago. Most of them are actually in the first shot, the first dose. Okay, and we know that first dose doesn't give full immunity. Second dose is the one that gives full immunity. So Israel has a large the population of Israel has immunized, and we have data actually for the second dose, the second shot. And this is a lovely, wonderful graph. It shows that there actually is a decrease in the number of cases after the second dose. Okay, they actually have the second dose. They begin in December, and then early end of January, they actually receive the second dose. And you find that there is a difference. So that means the vaccine is working. The vaccine has the effect. Okay. And then again, coming back to efficacy and effectiveness, the Sinovac is what is reported by the press. So we are still waiting. Okay. They promise that we will have the full data by the end of this month. How about side effect? Side effect so far from the US has given about 22 million Americans has received the vaccine. And the CDC is monitoring, FDA is monitoring, okay? And so far, the data has come out that is actually quite safe. Nobody has actually died from it. Even UK, and this came out very recently, says that 7 million doses has been given, okay, on up to January 24th, and quite safe. No severe side effects. The only thing is common to any vaccination. You have sore arm, headache, chills, tiredness, sick, fever, dizziness, weakness, and yeah. So in other words, we have such a large number of vaccine given, large number of people who receive the vaccine, and it is a short of a miracle to see that there is so much safety. Now, some of you may be concerned that human cell lines are used. Okay, what do you mean by human cell line? Okay, what the vaccine sometimes in the early stages you need to be tested in human cells. Okay, you find that the best way to test is in human cells. So they get all these cells from fetus that have been aborted. Okay, and there are about 10 human cell lines that is available in the labs nowadays. Okay, two of them has been used in the production of RNA virus. okay, or COVID vaccine. Okay, one cell line is a HK 293, which is a kidney cell line from a child, a fetus that is legally aborted in 1972. Okay, another cell line is from another PCR, PERC26, which is from another legally aborted fetus in 1985. So you find that these are from this aborted, they take the stem cells and they culture it so that this becomes cell line. And given the right nutrition, cell line actually are immortal in the sense that they can sort of produce and indefinitely. And it's quite useful to have cell lines for research purposes. You can test new drugs there. That's why testing on new drugs are now shorter because they can use human cell lines, and you can culture. So basically, you find that not all, okay, not all COVID vaccine you have to use cell lines. Okay, like the Pfizer and Moderna, they actually created the genome, so they don't need to use human cell lines. So AstraZeneca, CanSino, Sputnik, and Janssen are the one that uses the cell lines. So is it bad? Okay, I mean, the fetus cell, abortion, does it thin the using of it? Well, that is something to think about. I mean, vaccination, Edward Jenner infected an innocent boy. Is it wrong? Yeah, it's wrong. But then out of the evil that happens, out of the wrong, some good will come out of it. So that is something to think about. Whether uh, the aborted fetus die in vain or their cells can still be of benefit to mankind. Okay, so that is for human cell lines. How about long-term immunity? That is the million-dollar question. How long does the vaccine last? So far, we know that people who had infected with COVID and recovered, the immunity lasts about 6 months. After that, we do not see the antibodies. So we do not know actually they are still immune or not. Or not. Okay. Vaccination, so far our data is, we have only vaccinated up to about 4 months. So we do not have the long-term data. But at least we can say that the immunity lasts for 4 months. So whether in the future we may recommend a booster dose or not, we do not know. Okay, because this is so new that there are data that is just coming out. Now the other thing that is of concern is uh, uh, the SARS-CoV-2 variants. That means these are mutations. Now, RNA viruses are famous for mutating. They usually have about 2 mutation per month. Okay, that is why they are so versatile and why it's so difficult to produce a vaccine, okay, against RNA virus. Our influenza virus vaccine, we have to actually produce two vaccine per year for our influenza dose. Okay, that's why in our clinic, we actually get new vaccine every 6 months. And even the influenza vaccine will be a type that is sort of adjusted to the northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere because the virus mutate. So we know that is a mutation is there. It's a matter of how do we deal with that. Now, what is of concern is the one in UK, the UK variant, the B117. Okay, we find that this variant is more effective. Okay, it's more effective. We still do not have data whether it's more deadly. Okay, but we know that it's very, very effective. Okay, since the second, I mean, Malaysia, we had detected one, and just a few days ago, we detected another person with the UK variant. Is it only two or more? We do not know because we do not test enough. But you find that worldwide, in different countries, I think this will soon become the dominant virus. Then we also have the South African one, okay, and the Brazil variant. These are the three major ones, and more to come. So far, we find that the present Pfizer and Moderna is effective against the UK variant, and we find that AstraZeneca or Oxford is effective against the South African one. Okay. But keeping in mind that Pfizer and Moderna already started on the second generation vaccine that will be against the variant. So we may be looking at a booster dose of the variant. Now, how does the vaccine cause human mutation? Will it cause you to grow an extra arm or extra eye? No, it does not. Okay, because the RNA is only in the cytoplasm. It doesn't enter the the nucleus. And nucleus is where the DNA is, and the DNA is the one that that causes changes. So in fact, the RNA is introduced into the cytoplasm, and then it's destroyed within a few hours. Okay, for DNA that is actually vector DNA, the DNA is only contains part of the RNA, and this produced by itself and doesn't fuse with the human DNA. So there's no way for human mutation to occur. How about the mark of the beast? Okay, for some reason, okay, there's a thing going around Christian circle that the COVID vaccine is the mark of the beast. But if you look at Revelation and look at the context of Revelation, John is not talking about vaccination or anything. But at that time, there's no vaccination. But he's talking about buying and selling, and more to prove the point of people who are against God. Okay, so I don't think there is any connection at all with 666. Some people have come out and says, "Oh, the numbers for corona is 666." But I don't think, as Christian, we should believe that the Bible is talking about the COVID vaccine. Now, some people say that, oh, the vaccination is a way for people to introduce microchip into us. But Fact Find talks about passive RFD technology is too big for neither. So I don't think we can have microchip implanted to us. And the mark of the beast is actually more of a conspiracy theory. And I don't think I don't see how Bill Gates and his Gates Foundation is involved in that. But more important is that what are some of the misinformation? Because there are so many things with social media, with Facebook, with Telegram, everything is shooting around, and if you look at YouTube, there are so many things. It's actually quite scary. If it's safe for me, if I would like to have a baby one day, yes. Okay, if you are, vaccination does not make you infertile, neither man or woman. Okay, there's no it doesn't affect your germ cells or genitalia. Okay, whether we should give it to pregnant women. That's the question. Okay, most authorities, WHO, CDC, and all says yes. And you find that most healthcare workers, especially who are pregnant, about 60,000 of them took the vaccine because they say that they prefer to be vaccinated rather than catching COVID. Okay. So the general recommendation is that pregnancy, breastfeeding mother is not contraindicated. Yeah, I know a few countries like UK give a warning, but most countries, especially WHO, says pregnant women and breastfeeding women are not contraindicated. Now, if you already had COVID, do you need to be vaccinated? The answer is yes. Okay, so even you had the COVID infection, it's good to get vaccinated. Will you getting sick with COVID-19? Yes. Okay. It's not 100% protection. And the first dose, you get the most protection after the second dose. So it's always good to get the second dose. Yeah, because and even after you get the first dose, it takes about 7 to 15 days before your body develops immunity. That means within this period, immediately after taking the vaccine, you can still be infected. Can COVID-19 vaccine make me sick with COVID-19? No. Okay, because the attenuated virus is very weak. Okay, and RNA is actually artificially created, so there's no real vaccine, no real virus there. Okay, would you test positive? That is a concern because you know people who have a COVID-19 infection, even after they recover, will still be positive with antigen if you do antigen test for up to 6 months. Okay, that's because the components of the virus is still there. But they are employers are saying, oh, don't go back until you test positive. But these guys are not infectious; they are recovered. Okay, so people are afraid that, oh, if I take the vaccine, will I be positive or not? No, you will not be antigen positive. Okay, you will be antibody positive. So that's a different thing. So will it alter your DNA? No, definitely no. Okay, so our country is starting on a very ambitious immunization program. Okay, we have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Okay, and as we see, have you seen in the rollout of the vaccine in US? Okay, which is in shambles because it didn't work very well, and the rollout in UK also is in problem. So it's not easy to roll out the program. So whether we are planning to get our Pfizer stock by February 26th, okay, we must pray very hard that Pfizer actually delivers, and then how do we get it to the people? So that is something that needs a lot of prayer and needs a lot of things. Okay, and just a concluding thought, and I believe that we need not do one of the most important thing we do is that do not COVID our neighbors. Okay, and I want to draw your attention to Luke chapter 10, 25 to 37. Okay, remember in chapter 10, there was this expert in the law. I want to test Jesus and says, "What is written in the law? What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus answered with all the wisdom that he has, that he actually managed to summarize all the teaching of the prophets and the law, and says, first is the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind. That's the Shema. And love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. And I think that that is, after that, he told the story of the Good Samaritan. Remember the Good Samaritan? This merchant was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. On the way, he was attacked by robbers and he was robbed and left on the roadside for dead. And then you have a priest coming down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and then you have a Levi, which all avoided him. And then along came a Samaritan. Okay. And the Samaritan, which is not well liked by the Jews, helped the person. He treated his wound, gave first aid, and then brought him to an inn, and then he paid for his treatment. And out of this story, Jesus asked an interesting question to the young man: who is your neighbor? Who is your neighbor? And well, I must say that the young man is honest. He says that the one who has mercy. And Jesus says, go and do likewise. So what does it mean for us as Christians to not COVID our neighbors? Well, first of all, I think it means that we have to go down on our knees to pray. Okay, to pray for protection, to pray for a stop to the pandemic, to pray for our country. Okay, I think prayer is the most important medicine that we can use. Then we have to be very meticulous, even religious, in wearing masks. Make sure that we wear masks. Okay, we do our hand washing before and after we touch things with soap and water. Practice social distancing, and if you are in quarantine, be quarantine. Don't do pseudo quarantine, and to help the poor, because there are many poors around. So there's a lot of things that we can do to help our neighbors, both individually, both as a family and as a church. I think that's important. And then we have to think about vaccination. Okay, we think about vaccination. You find that vaccination is important. In the beginning of the pandemic, when the uh, uh, Italy and Spain is falling apart, we tend to blame the children for spreading the virus. No, I think it was very unfair, but we say that, oh, because the children are spreading it to their grandparents, so their grandparents are dying. So it's all because of children's fault. But our latest finding says that 41% of new transmission are actually from people 35 to 49 years old. So these are adults who are spreading, not yet the children. Adults who are spreading the virus. Okay, 20 to 34 years are for another 35%. So the young adults. Okay, children is only 6%. So that means basically young adults are the one who's spreading the virus. And you find that the infection rate is so high. So it's not the children is you to blame. We are to blame. So we need to protect ourselves. Okay, and vaccination is a way to protect ourselves. We need to protect about 80% of to protect each other, the country, and all that. We need to have about 80% of the people vaccinated. Okay, then we will protect, because we find that if we have 80% vaccinated herd immunity, we find that people who are not vaccinated also will be protected. And even this is from our experience in our experience in measles and all that. We find that if 80% of the population is infected, vaccinated, uh, people who are not vaccinated are protected. Even if they get infection, they get a very mild infection. So that is why you must think. You know, are you thinking only of yourself, or are you thinking of your community? So you need to protect yourself, protect your family, protect your neighbor, and protect your community. So as Christians, we need to think of what is our social responsibility. What is our calling? As Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. The other thing that is of concern is equitable distribution. The rich country are buying up all the vaccine, while the poor countries are not getting it. So no, I always feel that as a church, you know, we need to make noise. We need to be able to have some uh, uh, voice in what is happening in the world. We cannot just stand back and observe. Okay, because our responsibility is to be light and salt in the world. So I will end with this another $1 million question. Yeah. If which vaccine will I take? All that I told you and all that I know. So which vaccine will I take? The vaccine I will take is a vaccine that is offered to me. Okay? The vaccine, the best vaccine that I will take is a vaccine that is offered to me. And I will end here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Alex Tang, for that very comprehensive talk that basically covers from beginning to the end. Now, we will go to the question and answer session now. So if you still do not know how to access the question and answer platform, you can just QR code, scan this QR code behind me, and you can access to it. Uh, or you can go to menti.com, menti.com, and then put in the code 2098026, and then you can participate in this Q&A. There are a lot of questions already asked, and we will try to answer them as much as possible. And to be fair to the people who are asking the questions, I want to answer the questions that are popular first. Okay, in other words, questions that resonate with more of you. So if you start liking the questions that you like, if you see down the list, then we will answer those questions in order of popularity. Okay, so let's get started. So I will just show you the okay, hold on, yeah. I need to screen share first. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, good. So here we go. So now some of these questions have been already addressed by the talk. So we will just give a quick answer to them if it's already previously addressed. Some of the questions are more interesting, then we'll go through them. Okay. So the long-term side effects. Now, one of the major concerns is, of course, we only have a vaccination experience of a few months. Okay. Are they concerned about long-term side effects? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Dr. Alex?
Well, so far there's actually no concern about long-term side effect, because if you already have side effect, they will appear within 6 months. Okay, that's what the experience from other vaccine. Okay, so we do already beginning to have at least 4 to 6 months data, especially from the phase 3 studies. Remember, the phase 3 studies are very, very large numbers, almost like a population like that. You have 40,000 people who already have received the vaccine. Okay, so short-term side effect, they are not so far not any significant. So if there's no, then it's unlikely. Okay, unlikely to have long-term side effect. Okay, but
Okay, that's good. Basically, in terms of vaccine, most side effects happen short term. So that's the take-home message. So
yes,
long-term, extra long-term side effects are actually extremely uncommon with any vaccines, and this is based on the experience of vaccines for the past. Okay, the other question that interests a lot of Christians are, is this a prelude to the mark of the beast? I think you have answered this question. You don't think it is. It's impossible to, at the moment, based on the technology that we have for the RFID, radio frequency ID tags, it can't be injected through a small syringe. So we don't take this seriously. As a theologian, you don't take this seriously, yeah, Dr. Alex Tang?
yeah, because I think the mark of beast, you have to take it in context of the book of Revelation. How do you read the book of Revelation? And the mark of the beast is a choice. You receive the mark of the beast, and you have to sort of be idol worshiper and then to worship the beast. So I don't think that is something that injection can make you. Neither anything. It is a conscious choice that you make for your life.
Okay, the other questions are in relation to, I'll just group a few questions together. In terms of like the risk of vaccine, there seems to be an impression in some circles whereby the vaccine is more dangerous than the COVID disease itself.
Oh,
So,
no. Yeah, I mean, that is a definitely no. The vaccine, in fact, surprised all of us to on its safety. Okay, because I mean, so far we have about 120 something million doses given, and the number of I mean, you have to trust. I mean, it's difficult to trust authority nowadays. Okay, but WHO, FDA, CDC are actually doing a very good job of monitoring, and if anything happens, okay, social media will grab hold of it. So there's no point hiding anything now. Okay, so we are all actually very surprised as the minimal or lack of side effects. The only major thing we find is the allergy that was reported. So I don't think there is a danger, and then I don't think it's a danger. In fact, it's worse to get COVID. Okay, especially if you're a certain age group, you have comorbidity, and there is something now we begin to discover called long COVID. That means even after you recover, you will still have long-term effect like lethargy, headache, muscle pain, sometimes even paralysis and all that. So
thank
this
you.
is because
Because there are 96 questions here, so I'll
okay,
go through them fairly quickly. Okay, I think you have addressed the fetal tissue using development. Now, these fetal tissue lines I just want to add is basically they're historical. The fetal tissue lines that we've been using are the tissue from aborted fetus in the 60s and 70s, or even earlier. So there are no new fetal tissue line that's used for vaccine development. Certainly, the mRNA vaccines, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine, do not use fetal tissue for development.
yes, and also you're right. No, they did not purposely create any line for that.
Yeah, it's a historical line. It's all from tissues long time ago, decades ago. Which is, in your opinion, the safest of the vaccine that's available?
As I said, all vaccine is safe for people above 60. Okay, uh, the uh, concern that you may have is hearing from UK, because the UK way of vaccinating is that they start with age.
Mm.
Okay, so if you start with 85, like they did in Norway, of course there will be people dying. Okay, there are 33.
But not by the vaccine, right? It's
Not
just
by the vaccine.
actually because old people may die.
They die of old age. You see, it's about, they estimate about 45% of 85 and above who die every day in Norway. So it's not due to the vaccine. So my answer is that any vaccine that's given to you is safe.
So, and sometimes I also want to point out that sometimes this quest for the safest vaccine is also not a real quest, really, because in the end of the day, we can only take the vaccines that's available to us.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say you have the super safe vaccine A, but if it's not available in Malaysia, it's not available in Malaysia. Then it's therefore safer to take the next best or the third best or the fourth best, because the top best is not available. So all of us want to fly in the best airline, but we can't always fly in the best airline. We still want to get to the destination. So we take whatever is available. Yeah. So that may be a good advice.
Good point.
Next one.
I think people will say, oh, I will want to wait for this vaccine. I will wait for that vaccine. In the meantime, you can catch COVID.
Yes. Okay. Now, so I will just skip through this question. I think does it hurt? Okay.
Well, the vaccine is like any injection. Okay, so it will hurt a bit.
Yeah.
But,
I have friends in UK who are among doctors, because I spent a lot of my time there previously. So I've been getting reports from them. Some of them say that it doesn't hurt at all. Some of them say, yeah, it stings a little bit, particularly the second one. So, but it's no more than most vaccine injection.
Yeah, because I inject a lot of children, so the kids are very happy, so they are okay.
Yeah, we need your Pink Panther at the back to cheer them up.
Yes.
That's the trick. Okay. Okay, so I think this is a false choice. If you're given a choice, you can choose. But I think the way that the vaccine is being rolled out at the moment in Malaysia and in the world, actually, you probably will just be asked to take whatever vaccine is available. And for Malaysia, there's only 2 vaccines at the moment that's made available to us. So we just take it when it's made available. Okay, next one. Side effects, I think we have covered this in quite details, yeah? Okay. Now, I don't want to emphasize that this word side effect is actually very frightening, because when people think about side effect, they think about worst case scenario. But I think in medicine, we shouldn't frame side effects as worst case scenario. For example, I get asked question, when I do surgeries, what is the worst case scenario for cataract surgery? Worst case scenario is dying, is blinding, get blind. Or worst case scenario for driving is having a road accident and die from it. But it's not good, it's not wise to frame the fear or side effects as worst case scenario, because worst case scenario doesn't happen often. In fact, they're very, very rare. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Because I think one thing you have to realize is that doctors go by statistics. Okay, so if you ask us what's the worst case, of course we tell you that. But what we often is that we tell you what are the commonest effect, and then so it's not that you definitely get the effect.
Okay, I think there are a lot of talk about, worry about mRNA vaccine in particular, because of it's a relatively new technology, and no previous vaccine is based on mRNA technology. And I think there's a lot of talks because it's RNA. The moment people see RNA, it sounds like DNA, and therefore the fear of mutation, cancer causing in the future, and so on. I think you have already said in your talk about mRNA. The way I try to explain it to a lay person is that DNA in our bodies is like a library. Okay, so if you want to have a recipe for nasi lemak, okay, so someone go to the library, they have this information there, copy out the recipe from this library. The books are not taken out, but you copy out in a piece of paper. Then you exit this library. Now, what the paper you're holding is like mRNA. That's your mRNA. Okay. Yeah. Then you use the recipe, the mRNA, to then make your nasi lemak, and then you have a good time eating nasi lemak and very, 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 very pleased by it. Now, mRNA vaccine works by, you don't have to go to the library now. Okay. You have another copy of this nasi lemak recipe in your hand, but of course, this nasi lemak recipe is a special one. It's for COVID. And then you then cook it according to the recipe without going to the to the library. So therefore, mRNA, this piece of recipe, contaminating the original copy in the library is actually negligible because you're not going to the library in the first place. So, I mean, that's how I try to conceptualize it for the
That's an excellent way of conceptualizing it. Yes.
otherwise, people think that RNA will cause mutation and so on, right? So, okay, side effects, I think we have covered that. I won't cover this. How long does the immunity last?
Well, so far, for the vaccine, we have up to 6 months.
Okay.
So, I mean, we don't have data longer than that.
Yeah.
Okay, but we find that what we have are very sure of is that we have at least 6 months.
See, one of my concern is actually, of course, I think the community concern is mutation. I think the window for effective vaccination also may be important in the sense that if we drag out vaccination for too long, we increase the risk of mutation happening, and therefore the vaccines that we have may not be effective anymore. Is there a concern about that?
Oh yes, yes. I think that is the concern that, if you, as you said, drag out the vaccination too much, and also people go for one jab and then don't go for the second booster, second injection.
Yeah. So technically, that will increase the risk of mutation for the virus,
Yes.
and therefore we may be at risk that the vaccine that we now have today may no longer be effective for a new mutation. Yeah.
Yes, I.
So that's also one of the reasons why vaccination has to take place quickly, and we don't have a lot of time to get around.
Yes.
Okay, is it safe? I think we have answered that question for ages 65. Okay, this one I think we have also addressed. Okay, we have addressed this. It's not high risk. Okay, personal question to you, which you have addressed actually. Which one would you choose? Yeah, if you have a choice. If you have a choice.
I still, my choice is to choose the one that's offered to me.
Yes. Yeah, I would say the same. I think as frontliners, we will probably be vaccinated first, the two of us. We probably have to post a video of you having done when that happens.
I would like that. I'll be start screaming and yelling.
Now you have to take your own medicine. You vaccinate all the children. Now somebody's going to vaccinate.
I'll ask one of my patients to do it.
A little kid, yes, that would be great. Okay, common misconception. I think this is quite broad. Anything you want to add on this question?
No, I think I've shared on.
Most, yeah. Okay, yeah. How many different vaccines are being developed today?
Oh, hundreds of vaccines.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, even Moderna is actually developing 16 different types of vaccine.
For COVID-19 alone?
Not COVID, they are doing different vaccines.
Okay.
Okay, but COVID, because of the Operation Warp Speed, have a lot of money, so everybody focus on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the last time I looked at it, there are almost 200 or more, in excess of 200 vaccines being developed.
Yeah.
Of which, about 10 or so now that has been approved by different regulatory bodies in the world. Okay?
Yeah.
And there are quite a few of them, at least about 15 to 20 or more, that are in current phase 3 studies at the moment. So more vaccines will become available.
Oh yes.
Okay. Trump, Boris Johnson, and thousands of Chinese were infected, yet they recover without vaccine. So is vaccine really compulsory? Are there alternatives?
Well, I mean, you can be. Most people will recover. Most people will recover from COVID. In fact, most people will be asymptomatic. They will not even know that they have COVID. But there is the high risk group. Usually people who are above 60 and have comorbidities like if they have diabetes, hypertension, cancer. Okay, so these are the people who are at high risk. So we have to be aware that these are the people who end up needing oxygen and needing ventilation.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's important to note that the number of ventilators in Malaysia are limited. Okay, and if you put a person on ventilation, the person can take up a ventilator for 10 days or so. So that means other people cannot use a ventilator.
I think this point is not emphasized enough because we are faced with this one singular health challenge, right? We have forgotten that there are thousands of other health diseases that require the same health care provision. So the total number of people who die from COVID have to take into account the people who die of other conditions who can't access healthcare because of COVID. So
Yes.
we're grossly underestimated.
Mm.
Okay, next one. It's puzzling to read that infectivity is highest within 1 or 2 days after infected, and after that, it's unlikely to infect others. Please explain also people without symptoms do not infect. I don't know how you want to answer that question.
Well, I think the infectivity is actually depending on the viral load. That means how much virus are you spreading through your mouth and your mouth and your saliva and all that. So usually if the viral load is high, and that is usually the first 5 days or so, okay, then it's likely that you will infect others.
Yes.
Mm.
I think this also emphasizes the importance of mask. We don't have vaccine now, so the mask wearing becomes super important, that everybody complies with it, because the way to spread out a huge viral load is by like coughing or by droplets infection, essentially. So having the mask on, if you're asymptomatic COVID positive, you do not know it, nobody knows it, wearing the mask will prevent people around you from getting it, because you are basically preventing the escape of this high viral load, to the people around, surrounding you.
Especially singing. That's why
Yeah.
I mean, singing in church. I mean, we love to sing in church, but when you every time you open your mouth, you're shooting a lot of virus in the air.
So no singing in church until this pandemic is over. So that may be an added incentive for the Christians among us. Okay. Okay. I think this one is you have gone through that already. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I would take the vaccine that's offered to me.
Yeah. The vaccine is available and offered to him.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of data. Okay, if you look at my chart,
I think I think I want to add about the mRNA vaccine is that the technology, although it's the first vaccine using mRNA technology, but mRNA technology per se is actually not new. I mean, it's relatively new, but it has been around for like about 20 years now.
Yeah.
And it is a novel technology, but we're going to use it for cancer treatment in the future and also for vaccination. Now, it comes to the fore and it develops so fast because we have one opportunity this time around because of COVID, is a pandemic, that it pushed the whole development to the forefront. But the technology has been there for some time. We have used mRNA technology for the SARS, looking at SARS development, but we don't get the SARS vaccine out because there's no SARS anymore, right? So sometimes the technology is there, but it's not used. It's being developed, but it's not used yet. And COVID vaccine is the first one.
Actually, if I may add,
Yeah.
the COVID vaccine is not the first RNA vaccine. The first one is the Ebola vaccine. And Ebola vaccine has been out for 2 years.
But we don't hear a lot of it because Ebola is limited. It's not a pandemic.
Yeah, it is a pandemic. It's a pandemic in Africa. Okay, so but then Africa is a poor continent, affecting many poor people. So we don't hear about that much.
Is it safe for diabetics and thyroid patients to have the vaccine?
Yes. I think the vaccine is safe for people with diabetes, with thyroid, people, even for immune suppressed people on cancer and chemo and all that. It's actually safe.
Yeah. The only thing I want to add is that when you're going to have your vaccination done, when the vaccines are available, you may need to stop some of the anti-inflammatory treatment that you have. For example, you're taking steroid or you're taking painkillers, that you may want to stop that to increase your antibody reaction to the vaccine, effective antibody reaction. Would you actually advise that for the listeners here?
Well, you need to discuss with your doctor first. I think that will be the best advice I ask you to give you that discuss with your primary doctor before you take the vaccination. But the recommendation by WHO and CDC is that don't stop, continue, and then also no some people would like to take Panadol before or ibuprofen before the injection. They say it's not necessary.
Thanks. Okay. So another question about this waiting for later and upgraded vaccine. So I think our your advice seems to be that when it's available, take it. That's your advice. What if I don't take vaccine?
Well, then you pray very hard you don't get COVID. Because the numbers are increasing.
Yeah.
And this is only the surface. The numbers that you see, you must multiply by 10 at least.
Yeah. I think the other thing also, I think if not enough of people take vaccine, then we cannot get out of the pandemic. And therefore, we cannot get out from the economic ramification of it. We cannot get out from the social ramification of it. We cannot get out from this whole other non-health related challenges of the pandemic. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, as I said, we have a responsibility to look, not only to look after ourselves, but to look after our neighbors.
Sure, adult with special need, I think yes, take the vaccine. We can answer that. Okay, when will the average person in Malaysia be able to get the vaccine?
It depends on the government rollout of the vaccine. They promise that by the end of this month, they will vaccinate the 500,000 person. Then after that will be the older population, and then after that, everybody else.
Yes. Okay. I mean, the timeline that I've looked at the Kementerian Kesihatan, the MOH of Malaysia, is that they will vaccinate the frontliners starting end of February until April. And then from April to, I think, August or September will be the high-risk group. But then they will overlap with the lower-risk group. The lowest group will have vaccination being available to them starting May. So that's the kind of timeline that I've seen published by Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia. How much will it cost?
I think it's free.
It's free, yeah, free for citizens, but may cost people who are not citizens. But I think if it's made available to private centers, you know, they may be a small charge. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you go to the government centers, certainly it's free. Okay. You can't advance this and. Okay. Sorry, there seems to be a lag on the. Okay, so we are getting to some of the questions that are perhaps more personal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some about like cancer causing fear, which I think if someone has cancer, would you recommend that they take the vaccine?
Well, again, discuss it with your oncologist, okay, and then see what the oncologist says.
Okay. So I think some of this has been answered already. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, the other issue I think we have touched on is actually allergy. So what kind or what forms of allergy that one have should be concerned so that you don't take the vaccine?
The people with allergy is not contraindicated. That means if you have eczema, asthma and all that, only if you have allergic reaction to vaccine before, then you need to consult with your doctor and see whether you should take the vaccine or not.
Although the anaphylaxis, the severe allergic reaction is actually quite frightening, because it's done in a controlled environment, because the vaccination takes place in a health facility. Should you get the unfortunate rare side effect of this severe allergic reaction, we can the health professionals can actually help you we basically normally we just involve giving you an injection of adrenaline, a strong anti-allergy injection, and normally that will be sufficient, and then you'll be monitored. Therefore, it's important to have the injection, and then you stay in the facility for half an hour, at least half an hour, I would recommend. Make sure you're not reacting to it before you go home. So don't be in a rush. Don't be like you're a very busy man. Just walk away after the injection. So just take that precaution. So this is my general advice to the listening audience.
Yeah, I think there is a SOP in place for allergic reaction. So I think there will be safety measures in the injection centers.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why my page is a bit frozen. Okay, some other questions that we have. Okay, I think we have exhausted the top question part. Okay, so I'll just go through the more normal questions. Yeah? Okay. Okay, the social media share bad side effects of spasm from the vaccine. May I know the statistics for this?
Actually, I'm not aware of any statistics of spasm from the vaccine, because I think spasm is not under one of those recorded data, because this is under expected vaccination symptoms. Okay, I mean, so yeah, no, I don't have any data on spasm.
Okay, one question is about the criticism of people who are in position like the Pfizer CEO, Bill Gates, not taking the vaccine, and therefore, if they are not taking the vaccine, why should we? One of the questions asked is that.
Well, I don't think they are the best. I mean, let me put it another way. We should make the decision ourselves, okay, and then not be influenced by what other people do. Yes, so the decision is ultimately up to us. It's not up to whether you want to look at Elon Musk or Bill Gates or the CEO of what. I don't think they are the role model that we should take into play.
Yeah. So I think the perspective of the different people is that they do not want to jump the queue. That's also one perspective, one thing. So at the moment, the vaccination is going through frontliners, for example, the people at higher risk. And if you're at lower risk, then you shouldn't be able to jump the queue. Because imagine if I'm the important person, I'm actually in the low risk group. It's not my turn to get vaccinated. And then I jump the queue, I get vaccinated. That will also attract a lot of criticism. So I think they're saying that it's not that they're not getting vaccinated. They are following, they're taking the orders essentially based on the vaccination program for the country. Okay.
That's a good point. And
yeah.
I also would like to add is that they do not try to get your vaccine from the black market.
Yes.
Okay. There are a lot of fake vaccine around, and then you will not be protected.
Okay. Another question is, what happens if I can't get the same brand of vaccine for the booster shot?
Okay. Now, that's a good question. That's an interesting question. That if you can't get the same brand, in fact, in UK, they are actually starting a pilot study on using starting with Pfizer, and then the second dose they use Zeneca to sort of provide protection against the variant. So at this moment, I mean, we do not recommend changing the brand. This is just the early stage of the vaccination. But so far, there's no recommendation because at this moment, the government are controlling the brand. So we are not, I don't think there's any publication or or report of changing the different brands, except for this study where in UK where they are purposely changing the brand.
Yeah. Okay, we'll wait for the results of that, whether that works out or not. The other thing also, getting vaccination does not stop you necessarily from getting the COVID-19. But one of the very important endpoint of the vaccination is not just uh, so much that you don't get the infection, but that you don't get the severe form of the infection, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a very important point. Uh, in the studies in Israel, where they are large-scale population, and then if you look at the data coming from US, where they started vaccinating about 2 months ago, and they're getting their second, if you look at the number of cases in US, they're actually coming down, okay? And the number of severe cases are also coming down. So that means you may not get 100% immunity after the first dose, but you will likely to get less severe infection. So
And
that means
yeah,
the things that indication are very favorable.
yeah. Because sometimes we miss the point. Some people, because it doesn't 100% protect you, therefore, what is the point? Some people process that information that way. But actually, part of vaccination aim is actually to reduce the severity of COVID-19. And that is actually very important. Let's say the vaccine doesn't stop you from getting the disease. Everybody 100% still get the disease. But if the form that you get is a lot less severe, that you won't die from it, you won't have all the consequences. Actually, that also constitutes a very good vaccine. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think we have to realize that COVID will be here forever. They're not going to go away.
Mm.
Okay, but COVID may mutate to such a state that it doesn't disturb us anymore.
Mm.
And we pray very hard that it happens fast.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm just going down some of the other questions here. I will skip questions that are similar and have been answered. Okay, I'll just use my discretion. Okay, so question is, on what basis is Malaysia making decision on the vaccine choice that we are having?
Uh, Malaysia belongs to this organization called COVAX, COVAX. Okay, COVAX is actually when the vaccines become available, the richer countries are actually buying all the vaccine. So the poorer countries have no access. Okay, and then they're too poor to buy. So they formed this organization called COVAX, which is sort of to negotiate with the vaccine companies so that the poorer countries can have access up to about 20% free. So I think that is a important organization.
Mm.
US didn't join COVAX at all because US has been buying all that because US, but after with the new president, US actually joined COVAX, which is quite helpful. So we're getting our Chinese and Russian vaccine is from COVAX, the 20% of the population. We are buying from Pfizer, okay, directly, which is at a higher cost. Uh, I would like to recommend. I mean, I would like to commend Pfizer, no, not Pfizer, but AstraZeneca and a Chinese vaccine and the Russian vaccine because they are not out to make money.
Mm.
In fact, they are offering the copyright and everything so that like AstraZeneca, they're actually making the vaccine in India with the Serum Institute of India.
Mm.
Okay, it will be marketed as COVID Shield at
Mm.
cost. So that means they are the one, they're not out to make the buck, they're out to save the people.
Yeah.
So so you see, there's a lot of politics involved.
Yes.
Okay, and then whether we will get the vaccine, uh, uh, the Pfizer vaccine on the 26th of February. Well, I pray we do because it's made in Belgium, and the UN, I mean the EU is saying that EU products may not be exported until all the EU countries get their vaccine. So you have to pray very hard for that.
Yes, yes. Okay, the other question is about the mRNA vaccine in relation to the nanotechnology, the delivery vehicle for the mRNA vaccine. Do you want to have a comment on that? Will we causing some latent or late onset immune problems in the future?
Not, I mean, the mRNA vaccine is just a snip code of the mRNA. That means it's a very short code that encodes the spike protein, which is a very, and then it's coated with a lipid nanoparticle, which is actually a glycerol. So it means it's actually sort of a protein-like substance or fat. Okay, so there is no, I mean, even though it's called a nanoparticle, okay, this is nanotechnology, this is the latest, you see. So actually, it is a artificially created code enclosed in fat. That's all it is.
Okay, there's one question about, hi doc, does social media share bad side effects? And there are a lot of accounts on this. What is the real statistics, and how do we tell the real from the unreal, or the true from not fake news? How do we tell that?
At this moment, I mean, it's very confusing. You know, even sometimes I have problem trying to sort out which is a real fact and which is not. So what I do is that I look at the source. Okay, is it from somebody reputable, organization reputable, or is it a anecdotal? A lot of them is, oh, my friend's friend tell me that and all that. Okay, so if the person is say this happened to me, then I'll check up the person. But if the person say, oh, this my friend's friend says this happened, then I would take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, and then I will check it up with FDA, WHO. WHO actually have a daily update and all that. Then I'll check up with my professional bodies, and I'll check up with my friends. So whether this is actually real or just another article, because there are a lot of false news. People are saying anything they want, and because of the social media, they can say anything they want and get away with it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We have come to 1 o'clock, which is the time that we are supposed to end. So I think we will draw the meeting to a close now. This talk to a close. I just want to say that this session is recorded, so it's going to be made available in YouTube. So you can see the link that is posted on the Zoom chat, or you can just search in YouTube PJEFC COVID talk. I'm sure it will bring you to it. And then hopefully, if you didn't manage to catch everything, you can look into that. And if you have any friends or families that may benefit from this talk, do share with them. As a health professional myself, I would like to get this message out to as many people as possible, because our decision about vaccination has to be determined by facts, by truth. As a Christian, truth matters to me, and therefore it should matter to everybody. And we have to make decision based on what is true and what is factual. Decision shouldn't be made based on fear, which sometimes is the reality, because we are uncertain and we are fearful of things unknown, and therefore we find it very hard to make the right decision, and it's driven by fear. But it's important that we need to get the correct facts out so that we know the true reality. It's actually close to home actually for me. I don't have any family members with this condition, but working in the healthcare environment, I've got a good friend who just passed away just today because of COVID. He's a doctor and he succumbed to it, and he's otherwise healthy. So it is it's sobering to know someone fairly well who had this condition and then passed on. So COVID is real. The damage that it can done is also real, and we need to get out from this pandemic as quickly as possible. So without any further ado, any other thing to contribute? Any last words, Dr. Alex?
Well, Thank you for your time. Just keep safe. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, you have been wonderful. It's been fantastic to have you give us the talk. And it's really lovely to be able to share this platform with you to engage so many people in this platform. So thank you very much. So everybody out there, I hope today's talk will give you some kind of handle information as to how to decide whether you want to have the vaccination or not. One last word will be that let your decision be based on facts, true facts, and not based on fear. And with that, I would like to thank you for your participation. It's lovely to have all of you at this talk. Thank you very much. So goodbye, keep safe, keep healthy, and hopefully this pandemic will be over. Bye.